Transparency can be a moral and political value and an architectural one. Christoph Ingenhoven is interested in both and in how they're connected. We met up with him in Düsseldorf.
This could well be where crimes against humanity are tried in the future. A glass structure in the dunes of The Hague. Designed by Christoph Ingenhoven as a new permanent home for the world's highest tribunal, the International Criminal Court.
We're not building a memorial to the victims. That's not the purpose of a court. To do so would, of course, be an interesting architectural exercise. But we're not building a prison either. We're building a place where trials are conducted.
Many courthouses are cold, austere and forbidding, especially when the crimes tried in them are shocking. One example of that is the fortified courtroom beside Stuttgart's Stammheim prison. Ingenhoven wants to build a different kind of courthouse.
When you view it somewhat cynically, it's true that functionality played a part in Stammheim because it had to be a high-security building. Stammheim lingers in my memory because of an image from television. If I remember rightly, what you saw on TV was always the exterior. Basically, you saw barbed wire and concrete walls behind it, hardly any windows. So that despite all the efforts at fairness, you didn't associate fairness with it. Because it just didn't look fair. It looked dangerous. And I think that's what has to be avoided here. We have to guarantee security, and we're trying to do so. But at the same time, we're trying to create a great deal of transparency.
No stone, no concrete, no barbed wire. Christoph Ingenhoven and his team want to build a courthouse that doesn't intimidate the accused, but instead makes it clear to witnesses, victims and defendants alike that trials will be fair. Still, security remains their highest priority.
You have to imagine the barbed wire as being the moat. It's really in there. And here we've replaced it with a hedge with NATO razor wire in it. It's 5 meters thick and 1 meter high, so you can't get beyond it. You can't jump over it, and you can't get through it. So there are ways to create high security without people seeing it as high security. And the building has to be at least 25 meters from the street. That's the minimum distance to the facade. In places it's much farther away, up to 70 meters here at the front.
Ingenhoven is one of the world's leading architects when it comes to environmentally friendly, efficient design. His high-rises use half as much energy as conventional buildings. His design for Stuttgart's main railway station lets in as much sunlight and air as possible. His opera house in Taiwan is also a green building.
Perhaps it's clearer to us today that the television images of the court building that will be broadcast in the future will play a part in how the court is accepted. Of course, we want to avoid its being seen like places in faraway Africa, where white people drag black people into court, put them in chains, and then condemn them, where the victors judge the defeated. That's exactly what we want to prevent.
Ingenhoven is considered to be a moralist among top German architects, not least because, in contrast to many of his colleagues, he refuses to work for dictatorships. His refusal to design a building for the Chinese government triggered a debate among fellow architects.
None of us would refuse to build a refugee camp or a house. No one would refuse to build a project for a private investor, even in a dictatorship, as long as it's not financed by child labor. But there are clearly other cases where you might not only be designing buildings that symbolize a regime you disagree with, but possibly buildings meant to be misused as symbols, to give the illusion of something that doesn't exist. Democracy, for instance.
The celebrated architect Meinhard von Gerkan is building China's new National Museum, of all places, on Tiananmen Square. Rem Koolhaas's team designed the huge Chinese state television headquarters. A Berlin agency is designing a new government district for Colonel Gaddafi in Libya. Ingenhoven is surprised.
Just Google him and see what this man has to answer for. And think about it. Does he seriously intend to introduce democracy to Libya? Do I have to build someone like him a parliament to support this farce? Then it would be time to say things like that happen in other parts of the world, and we don't have to take part in them. Is architecture a moral issue? I think life is a moral issue. It would be bizarre if architects could or should separate themselves from morality.
Now Christoph Ingenhoven is waiting to see if his winning design for the International Court will actually be built.